G'day guys, ZiggyD here. How you going? I am back with Zizaran, which sounds a bit like cesarean when I say it like that. I'm sorry, Zizaran.
You had one job.
just is. What an intro.
We practiced. Oh my god.
We didn't practice. I literally just got back from New Zealand, so we smashed out organizing this episode last night. So if you guys didn't have much kind of like forewarning about this episode, like arrange your schedules, I apologize, but we only organized this last night, like 10 hours ago or something. So we'll say it should be good. It should be fun though, hopefully.
Pretty organized. It's good. We can handle it.
Yeah. How have you been going, Ziz? How's the 2.5 waiting room action been for you?
Dude, it's been really good. I've been trying a lot of different things, and none of them have really worked out because I'm trying a different approach. So, yeah.
What's your different approach you're trying?
So generally, I would go straight into mapping, fight for like the early ranks as well as like going for the first 100. But now I'm going to try to make a boatload of currency early on. Although this idea might get scrapped because it seems really hard. Because I want to go cast and crit discharge. But obviously you can't do that as your first build because it's so expensive. So I've been trying to figure out a cheap build I can do and farm like EXILED with.
Something you can transition into that, or
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Basically.
Rather than, like,
so I've been
re-rolling a
like
whole
trying
new build.
so many things. Yeah.
It's so
Because
tempting
EXILED is so much XP.
Yeah. All the blue trash mobs in there. The not so trash mobs. It's so tempting to make a build that's a good league starter and then re-roll a new build, but you do lose a lot of time for that, so you kind of have to account it. It's difficult.
Yeah.
If you can make something that's actually
I
a
am
transition.
considering that. Definitely considering it.
You play enough that you can probably pull it off. Whereas I want to like do like an 8-hour a day schedule rather than like an 80-hour a day schedule.
There's not 80 hours in a day, Ziggy.
Well, you make it look like there is.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. I mean, the thing is, like, generally, like, a big risk with doing what I would normally, like, push the ladder with is you're under-geared, you're not playing the optimal build in the start, and you're already in, like, decently high-tier maps, and you're tired. Yeah. So it's a pretty big risk of dying. So I'm very tempted to go something like Warchief Chieftain, where you virtually can't die, and then farm EXILED with that.
I'm not gonna have to worry about this league because I'm gonna be playing softcore this league, so my goals will be kind of aligned with that. But I'll give you guys a bit of an intro because I think we kind of just skipped that. But welcome back to Exiled. You guys may or may not have seen the last episode I did of this. I wanted to do it a bit more regularly than once a season, but at least doing one at the start of the league is, I think, interesting and useful for you guys because we get to talk about starting strong in X League, which in this case is Breach. So we're going to talk a bit about Breach, some of our goals, which we've already covered a little bit on Ziz. We're going to talk about what's strong and hyped, and give you guys 2 build recommendations that we think suit very well for Breach and for a few other reasons. And then some like goals you can set and making some cash in the league, which I think is going to be both of our goals actually. So before that though, I have a little bit of something fun we can do. An idea that I stole from a Magic the Gathering podcast called Unique Drop. In the future, I'm going to have like a sound effect that plays here and then some like animations and graphics and stuff like that. That's what I'm imagining right now. So you just need to imagine this, that I have like this epic like unique drop sound and then some like animation plays over here on the screen and all that. But in reality, what I'm gonna do is roll a d20, and the number that rolls, I'm gonna select a random unique from the new uniques, and then we're gonna give our thoughts on it. We're gonna analyze it. So it's kind of like Crack a Pack from Magic the Gathering, if you guys are familiar. But
I'm excited.
It's gonna be a little dodgy this time around, though. But we'll just use your imaginations, okay? Just use your imaginations. So it's extra dodgy because I'm rolling a d20 and there's only 17 uniques revealed so far. So if I roll 18, 19, or 20, I'm just going to re-roll, okay? All right. What do we got? We have 9? No, 6. 6. All right, let me grab the 6th unique here and we'll have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, what have we got here? Let's have a look. Now, Ziz is going to have to look on... do you have, like, the stream up, or...?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because, I don't know, I don't have a way of getting Ziz to see it just yet, so that'll have to do.
Budget cuts.
We have Voice of the Storm, which has actually been getting quite a bit of hype, so this is a pretty good one for us to...
I'm so happy this came up.
Random unique drops for us. Pretty nice one. A pretty nice one. So let me go through what Voice of the Storm does, and then I'll get your thoughts, Ziz. Voice of the Storm, Lapis Amulet. This is one of the Breach uniques, and this one can be upgraded into a presumably stronger version. Not all of them. Sometimes they're just different. But in this case, you get a bunch of attributes, bunch of int, some mana, and then you get the two interesting things. Critical strike chance is increased by uncapped lightning resistance. And what that actually means is that your resistance over your 75 cap. So if you've got, let's say you need 169 is capping with early week. What is actually cap? Like 135 or something cap in Merciless?
Yeah, 135 Merciless.
So if you're in Merciless, you have 130. If you have 150, then the extra 15% is going to increase your critical strike chance. So you can get a bunch of lightning resist on gear, and it's going to become crit chance. And then the next one is lightning strikes when you deal a critical strike. So, I guess before I get your thoughts, I'll give you some insight into that, because I think you were a bit confused about what that was. Right? Yeah. What were you thinking it was going to be?
So a lot of people were a little bit worried that the lightning strike would because this amulet sounds crazy, right? It's too good to be true. So surely that's a penalty and it hits you, is what I was worried about.
Fair enough. So while I was at ZiggyD, I didn't get to test this, but this is kind of like something I overheard some devs talking about, right? So I take it with a little bit of grain of salt, but what I overheard was that this is like an arc lightning thing that zaps out at the enemies, not at yourself. Now, what I couldn't remember, and I apologize, is I can't remember if it's localized on the mob that gets attacked or on you. I know Fire Burst, I think the other one, was localized on the attack. So, but I don't know if this is the same. Maybe it's the same. Maybe it's localized on the attack, but not sure. So, how does this influence your thoughts and feelings of Voice of the Storm? What could you see it being used for?
First off, it's not the over 75 kind of. It's the I don't know how the devs worded it, but it's was it total or up to 75% or up to your cap, something like that. But it's not over the cap.
I thought it was the excess remaining resistances after the cap. That was how I understood it.
No, there was a dev post about it that clarified it as well. But it's crazy. Yeah, it's very confusing, especially because it's something we've only now had in the game. It's not in the game before. But okay. It's a crazy amount of crit you can get on the necklace. And yeah, as far as I know, it's total res. So that means you can get a ridiculous amount for example, something like a Herald Auto Bomber.
So if you just have 200% crit, then you're getting all of that crit, including the 75.
As far as I know, yeah. That's what we were reading on the forums.
Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. Like the uncapped is supposed to be the thing in brackets. I guess that is literally just crit chance now. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking about doing like a Herald Auto Bomber with
this. Because right now you're sort of forced to do it with an assassin, because you do need the base crit chance. And you still need a base crit chance, but now you'll have enough to do the in-crit strikes gem, and then you get a ridiculous amount, like 200 to 400%, however much you can stack on with Topaz Fast, Purity, and you can get a crazy high enough. And then you can also have it would be a perpetual, like it'll keep proccing itself with the lightning strikes from the amulet as well.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that does sound pretty fun. I was watching Rise asked a question for Chris in this streamer interview thing that I did, and his footage was of that like Herald Auto Bomber thing. He was talking about the clear speed meta, so I think so you might see a bit of a boost to that, you reckon?
Nice, that'd be good. Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to try with an Inquisitor, and whenever I've seen people playing Auto Bombers, like you've not really been able to get high enough clear speed. Like most people have been like, I don't know, pretty slow clearing Auto Bombers. So I've always wanted to see like a super fast Inquisitor one.
Okay. I can't remember what the upgrade of this one was, but even just this one I could see working into something that I am pretty strongly considering doing as my league starter, which is going to be a primarily lightning-based Ellie Frostblades Inquisitor. So if it is localized on the mob that the arc shoots out from, then it's going to add a nice bit of extra kind of like chaining damage to what already has a lot of chaining damage. And if it procs off of like, I don't know, like I'm assuming there's some sort of internal cooldown or something, but it could potentially proc off like a chain projectile back to the rear and stuff like that. So could be quite juicy, but just that crit as well is going to be useful for For things
So
like
many builds.
yeah, but for things like Inquisitor and stuff that might struggle to get as much crit chance as they might want, especially what I'm doing doesn't really get power charges, so like any more beyond the 3 or 4 power charges you can get. So because I'm not going in that area of the tree, so being able to get like a bunch of crit chance could be quite useful. How do you think it stacks up against like a like a crit multi amulet though? Because in a lot of cases, crit multi is a better choice.
I was gonna say, I think the important and fun thing to note here is this isn't even the upgraded one. So I was joking about and saying, "Yo, what if the upgraded one is crit multi?"
Well, we will have to see. I did see it, but I actually can't remember it all. So apologies, I can't give you guys fat spoiler leaks. Do you have any other thoughts on Voice of the Storm? Do you think so? These ones drop just from the lightning breaches, which are pretty common, and from the potentially from the breach stone boss in the lightning breach. So it shouldn't be too hard to get one of these guys from what I've seen. Like, I don't think these will be particularly uncommon. I think it'll be more difficult to get the upgraded version though. But what do you think? Do you think it's going to be like pretty valuable sought after?
I think it'll be definitely, unless it's like Cloak of Flames rarity, I think it's gonna be pretty expensive.
Yeah, okay,
Pretty
good.
expensive amulet. I'll definitely buy one, regardless if I'm gonna use it in my build or not. I'm gonna try to snake one up early.
Yeah, same. I'll be hoping to get one to drop early, or putting one on the whoops on PoE trade, which we'll get into in a bit.
Saying that for both of us right now is kind of shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, yeah. It's I was considering not even mentioning the build I was going to play this entire podcast, but well, it's useful for the discussion. All right, I'm going to roll one more so we can get another unique drop here. 13
for helmet.
Good, I rolled an actual number that I can do here. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. What do we got? We have Zophethula's Heart. I love that all of the new uniques are basically unpronounceable.
Yeah. Wow, Voice of the Storm is okay.
Yeah. A bit difficult to like... How do you remember how to spell that? Like, imagine if people actually use trade chat and trying to type this out in trade chat would be interesting. Or trying to search for it on PoE trade would be pretty hilarious. It's like Zoph thing. So we have I think this is the upgraded this is the upgraded version of this particular breach unique. So this one has 10% max life, which we're seeing a lot more uniques this league with % max life as well. I think there's a helmet and also spoilers. I think I can Perseverance, the new community unique belt, will also have % life on it. So we're seeing a lot of % life, which means that you need to be potentially not using too many of those together because you want to be getting good life on the rest of your gear. So it kind of creates an interesting dynamic where you you can take less life on the tree if you're getting a lot of strength and getting really good life on gear and stuff like that when you're getting these guys instead, potentially. So it creates an interesting gearing dynamic. You got some fire resist, 10% increased strength. Damage penetrates, 10% fire resistance. Cover enemies in ash, which if I recall correctly is lowers their fire resist and does something else. Do you remember what Covered in Ash does?
I can't remember reading it, no.
Yeah, it lowers their fire resistance something or other.
I'm sure Carv will tell us in chat in like 10 seconds.
Yeah, maybe someone in chat can cover us there. And it just simply gives you Avatar of Fire. Do you have any initial thoughts on Zophethula's Heart?
I mean, it's like screaming Iron Will, at least. So like, dude, imagine this back in the day when Incinerate was amazing. It would be beautiful. Oh, it slows them as well.
Yeah, it slows 20% less move speed apparently, or 20% reduced move speed. Okay, cool. So it's more fire damage per taken rather than a resistance penalty, so a little bit different. So this should stack really nicely if you're getting other forms of resistance stripping like Scorching Ray and Flammability and stuff. I mean,
yeah, and Iron Will would be super cool with this, especially like survival stacking. Life might be viable.
Fire's getting a lot of love this. I mean, I guess we haven't seen as much of the other uniques just yet, but I feel like Fire is so strong and it's getting so much more love. Like
Lightning got a lot of love.
Yeah, I guess so, but the other amulet was, like, it's the lightning themed amulet, but at least that version is more just like a crit amulet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this is definitely, like, a lot of love for fire. You're getting the penetration, and you're getting more fire damage taken. We've got Scorching Ray, which is stripping enemy resistances. I mean, just like whacking this on Iron Will, Flameblast, or anything, Iron Will, Scorching Ray. Penetration, you won't get that from that sort of deal, but the fire damage taken will work for things like Scorching Ray degen setups, and it will multiply burns as well. So it's pretty insane. And then you can use this with the new bow, for example, that does fire conversion for doing like burning arrow setups or ignite rain of arrows or ignite ice shot or things like that as well, because it's got that avatar of fire on this as well.
But see, all the time I play, all I say is just don't get hit. This amulet goes against everything. When they hit you. That's
true. Yeah.
But I don't want to get hit.
I think you get hit a lot by like ranged mobs and stuff like that don't just tend to do much damage and spells and things. So it should, unless there's some sort of cooldown on that, it should just blanket any like spammy ranged mobs, making them and bosses. I mean, you're generally getting hit in like anything but like Shaper Fight and stuff like that. You're generally getting hit by some like random spray that the boss does.
Yeah.
That should.
Then you spray them back apparently with Ash this time.
Yeah.
No, that'll be cool. I'm seeing some Iron Will builds definitely.
Yeah, nice. And couples nicely with Chieftain as well, with his 10% increased fire, strength, and then all the other fire love going on there.
I think the only thing that sort of disappoints me is that it doesn't have flat life on it itself. That would be beautiful. Life really does need some love.
I don't know, because it's giving you 10% increased strength, which is flat life essentially. So
Yes.
If you've got 400 strength, then that's giving you another 40 strength, which is 20 flat life. So you're at least getting something out of that, right?
Yeah, but like I want some like cool items with like 50, 60 flat life and then 10%.
So greedy.
Wow, have you seen energy shield builds?
Good. This amulet is so good. You're gonna get so much life and strength and fire damage from this. I'm like trying to like pick a particular build that really stands out for this, but it's honestly just really, really good for pretty much any fire setup. And you know, like particularly Iron Will and Iron Grip setups, but just even without that, it's pretty juicy. It's pretty juicy. Do you have any final thoughts? I think this one's going to be pretty damn expensive, this upgraded version.
See, I think this one's going to be cheaper just because life.
Than the crit one?
I'm biased.
I think this one is stronger than the unupgraded crit one, but I don't know about the upgraded crit one. That might be
exactly. That's unupgraded and is already beast mode. It's so good.
Okay, all right. Let's move on, shall we, to the next section here. So next up, I wanted to, before we get into like talking about builds and things like that, I think it's pretty important to give some context for the league and talk about Breach. So I played a bunch of Breach stuff while I was at GGG, but these trips are a little difficult for me to just kind of like vomit out my knowledge, because I played it a bunch and I like learned a heap of little tidbits, but stuff that's not just going to come up unless Ziz helps me out. So it would be good if you could like ask some questions on how Breach works, and I can help you out, and we can run through it together like that.
Yeah. So something a lot of people would be wondering about is, for example, how do you actually activate the breaches, and do you need the shards, for example, to activate them?
Yeah, okay. I have seen a fair bit of confusion about that. So when you're just leveling or mapping, you'll see these portals, and you just walk over the top of them. You don't actually have to click them or activate them or anything like that. So if you're in a fight, you accidentally walk over one, things get a little hectic. But you just walk over the top of it, and then it starts expanding, and it'll start revealing the breach mobs in that area. And there can be rares, and then there can also be kind of like, I guess they're like unique mobs, but they're kind of champions of the particular boss that breach is themed to. So each breach has a theme, one of the 3 elements, or physical or chaos, and there'll be champions which are kind of like tougher mobs. And I did see while I was testing that it was either rares or maybe the champion rares will drop the shards, which I'll kind of explain what they do in a minute. And then occasionally you'll also run into a breach boss where you can beat on him, and as he runs away, he'll poop out a bunch of shards and stuff for you. So so that's how that works. But the breach stone maps is I've seen a bit more confusion with. So you collect these shards over time. Once you get 100 of them, you combine them together and just drop this breach stone in the map device. So there's I think there's either 2 or 3 tiers of this. There's the elemental tier, so lightning, cold, and fire are all on the same tier, and I think that's about level 70, that map zone. And then the next tier is physical, and it's either on the same tier as chaos, or it goes physical then chaos. I'm not exactly sure, but they're like higher level and significantly harder. Significantly harder.
Did you say chaos?
Yeah, the chaos one.
That sounds great. Thank you.
The chaos one was I didn't really do too much of that one, but the physical one was a good challenge, and some of you guys saw in my golem video me getting shreked by the boss there due to significant bleeds. But the Breachstone maps are interesting, and when I played it, I was like, oh, had no idea it worked this way, because the media articles that went around basically did a rubbish job of explaining it. But the way that it works is you open this map, and then you stand there and there's a portal that you'll activate right at the very start of the map. Now the map is linear, like a ledge style map. However, they can be a bit twisty and tricky and stuff like that to make it a bit more difficult. And once you activate the portal, you get a timer, which is like, it was 20 or 25 seconds when I was first there, but I think they made it a little more generous, so it might be like 30 or something now. So let's say 30 seconds. A 30-second countdown starts, and you need to kill mobs fast enough to keep that counter pumped up. So it was tough. Like, it was tough to keep up with. So, like, I was killing, like, an entire pack and maybe getting 1 second back, and if you're taking longer than a second to do it, you were kind of running down the clock a bit. And you have to keep up with progressing through the map at the same time as killing just enough mobs to keep the timer up. So you'll probably skip some mobs. I found it useful to skip some rares and things like that were tough, and just to kill just enough mobs to keep the timer up as you ran along with the edge of the circle. And once the edge of the circle reaches the end of the map, it will stop, and then you can enter the boss room. Now, if you fail and the timer runs out halfway through, the portal closes, and the rest of the map will just be empty. There'll be nothing in it. So you can actually just jump in and like lose within 45 seconds or something like that, and just basically brick the entire map. So it can be a little rough, and that I think will influence people's build choices. Because your clear speedy things are definitely going to do better in here. Your lightning arrows and your kinetic blasts and your Flameblast prolifs and stuff like that. Clear speed in 2016.
So can I call dibs on just like repeating the chaos one, and you can do the other ones, Ziggy?
Yeah.
Sweet, that's good. And like, what's you just volunteered to do all the other ones, and I'll do the CI one. I mean chaos one.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I don't know how the Chaos one is going to work out balance-wise with CI, because obviously CI is in a pretty good way at the moment, and having a breach that is Chaos-themed. I suspect they are like part Chaos, part Fizz or something, right?
Right.
But still, you're probably going to be mitigating a good chunk of the damage. I am very curious to see how that ends up playing out.
I'm excited. So, but what's to incentivize these breaches for me as like a racer? Like, is this something or people that play fast and like compete, or are we going to be looking to do these early on, or is this going to be like, fuck this, skip it to merciless?
So GGG was fine-tuning this stuff while I was there, and the first time I sat down and did a couple breaches on a new like low-level character, I went into Chris's office and I said, people are just going to skip these while leveling, like, because there was no real incentive to do them. Like, it was a bit of extra monster density and you could get some extra loot, but for the most part it wasn't really worth it. Like, you're better off killing more monsters as you continue to progress through the zones, because you do stop and stay in the one location for 30 to 40 seconds, right? Which is, if you're trying to push fast, then yeah, you're going to skip those. However, they did say that they didn't want that to be the case. They said they don't mind in some cases where people opt to skip something and instead focus on it more at endgame, but they didn't want it to be entirely skippable. So they did end up buffing the rewards, and in particular, there is actually these chests that when I saw it, you can see it before you open the breach. I don't know if that's always the case or not, or whether that was like a bug or something, so difficult to see. But if you expand a breach far enough, so if you're successful and kill enough mobs, and this is actually a very good point for me to skip over here, because I actually have a video for this. Look at me with videos and stuff.
So professional.
I know, right? So in this case, you'll see a chest. This chest didn't drop very much loot, but it does give you an example of how it works. So as you fight, the breach expands, and if you kill enough monsters and if your VLC doesn't crash, what the hell? I just want things to work.
Budget cuts.
Here we go. All right, we're good. Okay, we're going again. It was just a
Great.
blag spike on my local video. I don't know, but you are at the very outer bounds of the breach. So if you're the most successful you can be, there'll be a chest placed somewhere. So as you're expanding the breach, what you want to do is kind of like check the edges. So you can see I jump off to the right here and check the edge, and then you can see there's this chest here. Now this one, it doesn't drop too much. It just drops like a splinter and stuff like that. It's a pretty low level one. But I did see one that Jonathan was testing and cracked it open, and it dropped him like a full set of blues for his character. So they'll potentially be quite rewarding because you get the stones to, like the shards to add together, and then also potentially loot while racing. So what are your thoughts then? This is a breach stone map in the background as well. So you can
Well,
see
we
how that plays
were
out.
talking about the clear speed meta earlier, and this isn't exactly what I had in mind. So I'm guessing, yeah. I mean, so does Viper Strike clear it fast enough, I guess, is what I was like sort of leaning towards with that question.
Yeah, I did test an early iteration of the Breachstone maps on a Viper Strike character, and even though I was one-shotting stuff, I wasn't able to keep up just because that pack-to-pack clear wasn't great enough. But they did make it a little more accessible in the elemental levels. But yeah, I think that your pure melee characters are going to struggle in like the higher level ones just because you just need to be super fast about it. People in chat are like have hooked onto the part where I said a full set of blues. Context for that is important because I realize that doesn't sound particularly rewarding, right? You got a bunch of magic items. Whoa! He was on a level 1 character, right? So the first zone he walked into, before he encountered any mobs, a breach was there. And there was a breach chest, and he killed a couple mobs, and got the breach chest, and then was instantly kitted out in a bunch of good gear for leveling, right? So in a race situation, that makes a big difference. So I think the context there is important. Presumably, as you continue to level, the loot gets pretty good. And as you can see from the Breachstone map, the loot in these is actually insane. I think it's something like, I don't know the amounts, but it's many times the loot you would get in a normal map, and it's many times the experience you'll get in a normal map too, actually. I don't know if...
It's really nice density.
Yeah, density is insane, and the experience you get is very good as well. So I was talking with the devs, and they were thinking that, there's probably going to be people doing like rotations of these just like to try and reach 100. So this could factor into your push to 100 doing Breachstone maps.
Yeah. Reconsidering Valspark again.
Gonna rock some Valspark in here.
It's really nice.
Yeah, it's like the amount of loot is nuts. Like
Fuck the loot, I want the XP.
Yeah, I was pretty keen on the loot. The XP is juicy for sure, but I was pretty keen on the amount of loot you're getting from these. So if you can keep up with these and run them successfully, then the rewards are certainly there, because there's a lot of stuff dropping there. You'll notice that there's a lot of maps dropping, by the way, guys. The maps in that video are all like beach maps and stuff, because I didn't have a completed atlas on this character. So they can actually be, maps of whatever tiers you have unlocked, equivalent to the level of the Breachstone map.
So something a lot of people will probably be wondering about is, does the map level of these breaches ever change, or is it static for like, will the fire one always be a certain level, will the lightning one always be a certain level?
I think they're set levels. So the elemental ones, I'm pretty sure were all 70, and then I think the next ones were 75. I don't know if there was an 81 or not. But yeah, they are kind of set levels. So kind of like, like an Atziri zone, that sort of deal.
Okay, sweet. So there's no like, you can't like open an 82 like with Right World?
I don't know what the Chaos level one was. It might be a fair bit higher or something, but yeah, okay. not exactly sure there.
The Chaos one.
You're very excited about this Chaos one, aren't you?
Yeah, the CI one.
Yeah, the CI one.
It intrigues me.
I have to pause here because there's a unique drop there that I end up showing off that hasn't been revealed yet. So.
Oh shit!
I don't know.
Bex just revealed one.
I might be able to reveal that now. I don't know. I haven't checked, so I'll just pause there. But
I'm more worried about that if they make them anything like the Chaos Warbands, then I'm not going anywhere near that instance. So.
Yeah, I can't comment too much on that. I wanted to leave some things unrevealed and some things somewhat secret for me when the league launched. I didn't want to do all the content, right? But this does bring up another point here, is that there are these uniques that drop from these, and that's going to factor in quite a bit, because I think that this is the Challenge League that has the most uniques that is tied with the Challenge League mechanic ever that I can remember, right? Like, there's a massive amount of them if you include the upgrades as well.
Yeah. What was the total amount? Was it 50 something?
50 something overall, and I think it's like 30 for the new league or something. It's a massive amount. And they look good. They look good. Like, there's also the highest density of good-looking uniques I've seen so far.
Yeah, I'm even interested in a few, and I'm picky with my uniques.
Yeah, I've been like super keen on a lot of these, and I did have a look through some of the ones that haven't been revealed yet, and there's definitely some good-looking ones in there that haven't been revealed yet, so they haven't just shown off the good ones. There's other good ones to be seen. So there's money to be made here in making a character designed to farm these breaches and farm these breachstone maps. So I think that's pretty pertinent, and that has factored into our decisions of builds that we're going to get into in a minute as well. Do you have any other questions or comments or thoughts on the Breach League mechanic, Ziz?
No, that pretty much sums up all like the main things I was curious about breaches.
All right. Chat is saying this is 1,000 ES shield. Yes, it's the new Calm's Heart for ES, but its drawback is that it doesn't have any links, so it doesn't have any sockets. So you do miss out on 3 sockets, but you gain only 1,000 ES. It seems pretty balanced to me. Let's talk now about our goals. You mentioned a little bit already, Ziz, that your goal was still to reach 100, but you're taking a different approach to it. Do you want to walk us through that a little bit?
Maybe. Well, I mean, sure. I'm trying to figure out, so ideally I want to, instead of like playing a half-ass build or like something that's just like climbing the ranks and like sort of like struggling to do it, I kind of want to do a dedicated currency farmer, ideally a dedicated currency farmer that can just regret respec into my main build, which would be custom crit discharge. But the other thing I also, like, I have another option of, for example, Chieftain, Warchief, and just wrecking at Zeri until I make, like, say, 800 kills, 1,000 kills, which early on, if you're doing something that has a high, like, income potential, is pretty easy when you're doing, like, 30-hour sessions. But then I do have to make a new character again, and I waste all that time for it. Zeri does have crazy XP. So I'm trying to find something that can do both, but I'm sort of struggling with it.
It has been a tough league to come up with what build I'm going to be playing as well. But how do you weigh up that decision where you have to factor in the idea that I can make a bunch of currency if I make a dedicated character, but then I have to re-roll? Like, do you know how much time you lose and how much that time is worth to you, and what the cost of that is?
Probably be losing around 12 hours, 10 hours, probably, which is quite a lot. Because you're not losing, I mean, you're still doing stuff. You're still gaining things. You're gaining maps. I'll probably be looking at in like Global 820 for people offering up like, what do you call it? Trials and stuff. Yeah. So it's not like all the time is wasted, and you are like making currency for the new thing. For the new build. So I don't know. I'm if it doesn't go well, I'm gonna be testing a little bit more after stream. Then I might just go something like ED or Blade Vortex and just straight into maps.
Yeah, okay. For myself this time around, it's very tempting to go the Uber Lab route, to try and get into Uber Lab as quickly as possible and farm that, just because the wealth you can produce from that early on is just so insane. But as I was mentioning, like, this league has the highest density of good uniques associated with the league mechanic, that this time I think I'm committing full on to the league mechanic. I'm going to skip the Atzeries and skip the Uber Labs, and even to an extent skip the mapping, apart from, to be getting breaches. So running efficient maps to get breachstone shards and then farming the breachstone maps as much as possible, I think is going to be my MO, because those uniques, my goal is to make builds with the new uniques. These uniques slot together in very thematic ways, very like here's a build sort of ways. You've got these fire uniques, like I'm gonna make a fire build. You got these lightning uniques, I'm gonna make a cool lightning build, and so on. So I want to get those parts, and I also want to sell those hyped parts to other people, because there's going to be a lot of people that want to be exploring builds with those newly revealed uniques, to have so many hyped, interesting, powerful uniques. There's going to be a lot of demand for them, so that's going to be my goal, is to get into and farm those breaches as hard as possible. And
so you're going to be a breach lord.
I'm going to be a breach lord. I'm going to be a beach lord. For Hoth. Something like that. Yoji memes.
So do you have like a specific goal, like amount of exiles you want to make or something, like 10, 100, 1,000? What's your goal?
That's a good. I do want to set this league down as my currency destroying league, as in where I produce vast amounts of wealth, because it's pretty fun.
I think you should commit to a number here on stream with everyone watching.
Oh my god. All right.
Remember, it's softcore, so exalts are worth more as well. Before you say like too many.
Yeah. Be like, I'm gonna do 1,000 exalt challenge. Chris was telling me I should do a 1 chaos to 1 mirror trading challenge, where I trade up and abuse my streamer privilege as much as possible to do it.
All right, I was like, this sounds like a horrible scam.
Yeah, but it would probably get views though. Oh my god. So setting a currency goal, that was not even like entering my mind. It was more about the currency as like a tool to create like a build with each set of themed uniques. Like I kind of wanted to make one build of each set, so a chaos build, a lightning build, a physical build, and a fire build, so on. That was my goal.
I have a challenge for you.
Okay.
You buy a mirror on softcore, and I'll hit first level 100 on hardcore. Let's do that.
Buy a mirror on softcore. How much do mirrors usually go for? How much exalts is that? You reckon?
110, maybe?
So like 100x challenge?
Something like that? Yeah, I don't know.
It's so much money that you're just getting and then not doing anything with, though. Like, because you're just like saving it towards a mirror rather than spending it on builds. Because I always spend my money as soon as I get it. Like, as soon as I had a good chunk of cash, I just dropped it all on my low life essence train character last league, and then
180
lost it
apparently.
180x. Oh my god. I know if I commit and then don't end up following through with it, because I'm like, I got bored of making currency. People are gonna chew me out. All right. I'll try for a mirror, Ziz. I'll try for a mirror, guys.
It's a DLC. What I do for you guys. Are you gonna mirror another chromatic thing?
Yeah, I'll trade up to a mirror and then I'll mirror chromatic.
Okay, well now you said it.
Once I get the mirror, I'll sell it and then build a bunch of characters, probably.
No, you just said chromatic. You committed.
I've already done the mirror chromatic thing. I'm not gonna do that again. That was I already get enough hate mail for that, and that was on a beta server. And I still get so much hate mail for that. If I did it on a live server, people would hunt me down. I would probably just get beat endlessly.
Yeah, you would never be able to stream again.
It wouldn't be good. All right, I'm gonna do my best to make a large, juicy amount of currency this league. Then we'll see how I go. I'll try for it. That means I have to really get stuck into trading and even do like off-stream trading and stuff like that. Because you can't flip. Like, you need to be flipping items. You need to be setting up whoops and buying items and reselling them to do this. And doing that on stream is not ideal. So, how much do I abuse my streamer privilege to make this happen, do you think? Because
a lot.
It kind of seems mandatory. All right. We'll see what we can do. So what do you think in your mind, Ziz, is very strong and hyped this league? Now this is important because it tells us what we need to avoid and what we need to sell items to.
So they've added this new skill called Blight, and it's super. No, okay, I mean Blade Fury, of course. Come on, which is something. I'm surprised that many people want to try it when that many people want to try it. So if that makes sense.
No, I get you.
Same reason I avoided Blade Vortex as my starter build last time. I was like, I'm gonna do Blade Vortex. It's gonna be amazing. And then I had this thought of clarity, and I was like, I just said that on a podcast, and Ziggy said that on a podcast, and lots of other people said they were gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. So yeah, I mean, Blade Flurry is gonna be. I mean, it sort of scares me, like especially for the physical version, because you want like the offhands are usually unique, so they'll be pretty pricey. And a lot of people will be going Rat's Nest. And I actually think Starconius is going to actually cost something this league. And yeah, and a lot of people will be doing life base, especially on softcore. So yeah, it's gonna be too expensive that I'm. It's still high up on the list of things that I should do, but I don't want to do it just because I'm worried about the price.
Yeah, I really want to play it as well, like even as my league starter, but because it's me, man. Like I love playing like evasion, life, crit, blowing up shit like that with Blade Flurry, and particularly because I'm playing softcore this season. Oh my god, it'd be so juicy. But I just don't. I learned my lesson last league with play because I did go ahead and play Blade Vortex despite your warnings, and yeah, no, it's not the greatest experience. It's interesting, this dynamic, right, where something gets really hyped to the point about being really good to the point where it ends up not being very good to actually start with, because of all that extra competition. Yeah,
and that's, I think something like Inquisitor will be easier because you don't rely on Uniquer and you can craft your own.
Yeah, don't get too much Inquisitor hype going, please, especially not for early attack Inquisitor, because I was hoping to avoid most of the Blade Flurry competition. I think I can, but it might be a little bit there for me.
Try not to tell everyone to play it.
So Blade Flurry is super juicy, but also going to be very super competitive. There was like a poll on Reddit, and it was like the second highest thing was like 7% or something for like fire builds like Flameblast and stuff like that, and then Blade Flurry is like 20-something% if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So it's like 1/5 of people are going to be playing Blade Flurry. I mean, it's not the Spectral Throw days of 1.0 when literally everyone was playing Spectral Throw, but it's up there. It's up there. So avoiding basically the same gear that Mathel's going to be using and selling Mathel's gear, because I think he's playing Blade Flurry, isn't he? He's going to.
Yeah, I think so. Someone said so.
You'll probably go like.
I think Egypt mentioned Blade Flurry too.
A few of the guys are going to be playing it, so that's going to be plenty for me to avoid it. This league, I learned my lessons. I think that the next kind of hyped thing is going to be fire builds. I think early on, like, we're going to see a lot of fire build action. Whether it be pizza sticks, so Flameblast totems, or pure Flameblast, or I think there's also going to be a fair bit of people playing Scorching Ray and Cast on Channel, exploring
maybe
those.
Blight.
Yeah, Blight did get a bit of a buff, and there's that Cast on Channel thing, so it's going to be, there's enough interest there that there's going to be a good significant amount of people trying it out. I did test Cast on Channel at GGG, and it feels balanced, right? Like, not overpowered, as in it's another interesting tool in our tool set. But I couldn't see any broken builds with it when I was testing it, and I asked the QA guys, and they said nah, like, we couldn't figure out anything really strong with it. So they're gonna put it out like this, and players might discover something very strong with it. But it seems balanced, which is a little unusual to say, but it seems like it's in a good spot. Which I don't know. I just find that very amusing. That people are going to call it bad because it's probably balanced. Like, I think balanced to the point where people will think it's bad because it's not Blade Flurry, you know?
Yeah, I get it. Not tier 1. It's just an okay thing. Oh, I'm sure we can break it.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody will come up with something.
But we do have a few good starter builds ready. One by this German guy.
Yeah, let's switch on over to the starter builds. So we know that we're mostly just going to be avoiding Blade Flurry, right? Like, and that means avoiding things that compete with Blade Flurry that are different and not Blade Flurry. So things that use one-handers and stuff. Everything else is kind of like pretty mixed up. So let's move on to our builds then, which I have over here. If I minimize this and close this. Over here we have a video by a wonderful gentleman by the name of ItsYoji, which is a Flameblast Elementalist that he made for 2.4 that is incredibly relevant as a 2.5 starter, I think. So a few things, as we mentioned, a lot of these uniques are going to be really good for setups like this. And on top of that, we have Scorching Ray Totems now to increase the boss killing potential of things like this. And then when I first went to GGG and tried a Breachstone map, there was a situation where it was too difficult for me to do. I was not able to do it with the builds that I'd made, and I went over to QA and I'm like, show me. show me the builds that you've been able to do this with, because this is too hard. This is before they kind of like toned it down a little bit. And basically their build that they were able to do it with was Flameblast Elementalist, because of the ability to destroy the entire screen and then prolift to the rest of the screens around that. So that's the jam. And I think one of the important things here is that it doesn't really compete with anything gear-wise too much. Like, what are your thoughts on this as a build starter?
Yeah, it's really good, and you can go the exact same tree for Flameblast as Firestorm. So say you just have this passionate hatred for Flameblast, you just switch over the gem and you're sorted. So there's minimal changes needed, at least between the builds, and you have the option of going full life, CI, hybrid. I'm not a big fan of CI for Flameblast itself, but yeah, you have a lot of good options. It's a fantastic, and yeah, it's so versatile, really strong.
It felt like when I came to the decision that I needed to pick this build as our league starter, one of our league starters of choice, I was like, oh, but I mean, everybody knows about Flameblast. There's not like anything like edgy, unexpected this league that's a great league starter, I don't think. But it's just so solid, and then it's just getting more love. Like, it was already really good in 2.4, and it's just getting better this league, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's cheap.
Yeah. I mean, you can do this with all rare gear, and then there's some nice cheap uniques you can transition into, like Yoji's showing off Cloak of Flame here, for example. You can transition into some pretty nice cheap stuff, and then once you do want to sink some cash into it if you want, you can start stacking things like Block with Wrathpith and Brumese, even though Brumese is nerfed a bit still, could be quite good. Maybe it's a bit cheaper now because of that. But it's got that skill. Last time we made one of these, we did this show for last league, we talked about scalability as an important thing. So it starts off cheap and has that scalability. Yeah. This definitely has that in spades, for sure.
Yeah, it's one of like the top clear speed builds, and you do also have the option of going like Inquisitor as well for like super clear speed. Obviously, that is a lot riskier, whereas Elementalist is so safe with the reflect reduction.
Yeah, that reflect reduction and the ability to do pretty much any map mod is quite juicy. Another thing that I noticed was that the Breach Lords, if you want to use this as a Breach Farmer build, so in addition to, as I mentioned, this being like top tier as far as actually doing those Breach Stone maps and keeping up with the timer, the bosses are not Ignite immune. Yay! Yes, I didn't see any immunities on them. I checked through the ones that I actually tested. I didn't try the Chaos one, so maybe he's immune to everything, but it's immune to damage. But these guys are not seemingly immune to anything, so you're going to be able to probably just one-shot them with Flameblast.
That's really good.
So it's a great choice for both the clearing and for the boss. Do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, the only thing to note is that obviously Roomies is taking a nerf, which is a big part of the Flameblast build, but you can like still get pretty high block chance. Just you have a harder time getting capped with the last bar.
Yeah, you might not be capped, but you'll probably still be in like the 60s or something, which is still pretty good.
Yeah, it's decent.
Yeah, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, the link to the Yoji's guide will be down in the description below.
You can use Rainbow Stride to get spellbook capped. So last bar and a Rainbow Stride.
Yeah, that plus like Yoji's using Tempest Shield with Blind and things like that. Yeah, the defensive layering is really good. So this is both good for hardcore and softcore, and I think it's going to be able to handle all the content that you might want to do early Breach. So the second one is Warchief Totems, as it says on the screen here, which this one is quite juicy because it's just so very, very flexible and handles any potential like gearing issues that we might create out of this video. So last time we talked about Blade Vortex as a league starter, and then, well, the stuff that Blade Vortex uses ended up being super freaking expensive because of that, and it was a nightmare. So ended up being the best recommendation as like a side effect of us recommending it. In this case, Warchief is pretty much immune to that. Why is that, Ziz?
Because you can do it with sounded super scripted, but you can do it with like swords, you can do it with axes, you can do it with maces, you can craft your own. There's so many uniques for it that are guaranteed to drop. So many uniques that are cheap. Like you have his manas, you have Comes Primacy, you have Marui Erki, and you can also go Facebreaker, which depends a little bit about the range nerf. I'm a little bit worried about it because obviously that's something I played and loved. But Yeah, I think Facebreaker will still be like super good, especially for things where you can like preset your totems down for it. Zeri, for example. But definitely like axes and all the like the weapon ones should still like clear maps really well.
I wouldn't be too concerned about the range nerf because they also increased the length of weapons, like the weapon range, the base weapon range of all weapons. So I think it was more
Yeah,
just to counteract that and to counteract some
but
weird bugs
I'm
I heard about.
still worried about unarmed though, because they didn't really. It's been
Yeah,
a little bit more vague about unarmed.
yeah, I wasn't sure about unarmed either. But yeah, you've got the option of going axes, maces, swords, or facebreaker. Facebreaker being the one I would recommend the least as a league starter, but it's still quite possible. You can get facebreakers easily in a new league. It's more about getting the other supporting gear that with high fizz
Yeah.
damage that is a little bit trickier.
Yeah, like the main reason Facebreaker has been such a powerful build now is because of steel rings, and with the addition of steel rings, you have just in like insane potential.
I think that the real kicker about this and the thing that gets me excited about recommending this as a choice, and why I was like yes when you suggested it last night, is this idea that okay, so you decide you want to play Warchief Totems. You guys, start with Count's Primacy, and then but wait, too many people are doing Count's Primacy. It's too hyped up. Okay, Hezmana's Bloodlust. All right, no, too expensive. Change your tree slightly. Just change out some of the passives to Mace passives, and pick up a Moroi instead. Well, no, that's not so good. Pick up a Condos. I mean, these are all cheap, and but with the potential of becoming a bit expensive if they get too hyped. So just check all of them. Just level like with whatever weapon. Don't really select your weapon specific passives, and then just check PoE trade to see what weapons are available and which one's the cheapest, and then just go with the one that's cheapest.
Another thing, not only are they cheap, but they're actually like really common. So the chance that you actually find one yourself is pretty high.
Yeah, you can get primacy through like divination cards really easily, and probably Hezmana's Bloodlust as well. Moroi's relatively common. Kondo's Pride, I feel like I found a bunch of those last league, so pretty easy to get to. Yeah, they're all in that like. I think Moroi might be a little rare, is it? But yeah, no, they're all seem common enough. And the biggest thing here is though that you'll notice a trend here is that none of these, not even Facebreaker, competes with Blade Flurry in any way. Not using any one-handed weapons here. We're not suggesting any one-handed weapons. So you're completely immune to the Blade Flurry effect, and you'll be able to farm the gear that the Blade Flurry people want and then sell to them for fat stacks of cash. Just going to be very juicy.
Yeah, you won't be using the same jewels either. You'll be using two-handed jewels, totem, area damage. Sorry about that, but you know.
Yeah, the area damage one will have a bit of competition, but if it's like a two-handed sword area damage, totem damage jewel or something, then you're gonna be okay. So that's pretty good. I think that kind of covers like I don't think we need to go too in detail with these builds. Like the build guides are there. I'll link them.
Something that is important to know, especially for like a lot of people complain about the survivability on the totem. So for example, if you're not a chieftain, but like totem resist nodes are getting buffed through the roof, and like a lot of the totem nodes have been reworked slightly. So even though I saw a lot of people have been worried about the 10% Warchief nerf, it sort of gets made up for by the buffs again. So it's not really changed that much.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I did mean to mention that. Good catch, Ziz. Good catch.
Not worth panicking over.
No, not at all. I mean, the damage was already, even with the 10% nerf and no other buffs, like you're probably going to be fine anyway. It's such a ridiculously strong skill, and continues to be so. So two great league starters, Flameblast, Elementalist, which is more specific, but it has that cheap gearing and then easy scalability, and then Warchief, which is just so flexible in the way that you gear it and the way that you build it that you're just going to be immune to any sort of Ziggy, Ziz, Mathel, whoever effect. So you're going to be completely safe from that, and it's going to be an excellent league starter.
Self-found.
And there's Lifting Nerd. The video I didn't actually mention at the start was this is a guide by Lifting Nerd as to Axe Warchief, but easily modifiable over to any of the other types. So next, let's talk about producing currency in early league. You mentioned to me last night, Ziz, that setting up the whoops is pretty important.
Why did I whoop it? Yep. So basically, there's this feature on PoE Trade that not everyone knows about, and it's basically you can set up like a it searches people, or you say you're searching for a perfect jewel, right? And then you can click on search for live updates, and you can set it to like update every like 5 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever. And if a new item gets listed, it'll like alert you and give you a whoop. Or you can customize that sound as well, which is fun and has scared the shit out of me on multiple occasions. But yeah, it's super useful, especially early on. And that's things like that is how I end up getting a lot of my early gear, because a lot of people don't have currency early on. But if you like, especially important for people who are in a group, you can have a whoop up for like a 5 link. And sometimes people will list a 6 link really cheap, which is what happened to me lastly, which is like super good. And obviously, something like 20, 30C early on in the league, most people don't have that. And that can be like 2x or something early on. But if you can pool currency with the team, crazy the amount of stuff you can do.
It's it's vitally important in early league if you are trying to start out strong, which is what this podcast is all about. Go figure. And to be snatching up those early bargains. And then I feel like flipping is a dirty word. But let's talk about long-term. Let's just call it long-term market strategy, investment strategy. So I do suggest keeping an eye out for things that you can potentially invest in and then see profitable returns on after a bit of time. Because what happens is people have a limited amount of currency early on, and they'll pay like what they have to be able to get an item, and people who really want currency to buy another item will sell that item for that amount of currency, right? That's the effect. So things, the baseline price of things is a bit cheaper, and then it increases before starting to fall back down again. So it's not a bad idea in those early couple days if you have a bit of currency, say an Exile drops for you, or if you get a couple chaos together, or if you're just playing really hard and you've progressed and made a bunch of currency. And then picking up a few of those key items early on is going to be pretty good. So like picking up a Beano's and then selling it for a bit more later on is going to net you a bit of cash. But in particular, jewels. I think keeping an eye out for jewels that are to do with hyped or meta builds is very important. So what you can actually do here on PoE Trade, and I got this up on screen, is set up a search for a 3-stat jewel. So let's say we know Blade Flurry is going to be super hyped, right? Like everyone's going to be looking for decent 3-stat Blade Flurry jewels pretty early on. And if you can...
2 chaos max.
Is that your max buyout to buy these guys? That's a good suggestion, actually. So let's do that as well. So what you'll do is you'll have all of the stats that are relevant for those, like good for those. So we've got life, area damage, attack speed with daggers, crit multiplier with one-handed melee weapons, so on and so forth. And you hit the count button here and press and type in 3 so that you'll get 3 of those stats, any mix of 3 of those stats. And then we can set a buyout of buyout max currency. So you're saying two chaos, you reckon? Searching for like...
Well, I was joking, but
I mean, it's going to happen though. People are going to get jewels that they don't like necessarily know the value of, or they want to just make a couple chaos early on, and you can get them pretty cheap. I would probably think more like 5 chaos or 4 chaos or something like that. But putting in a max buyout to get these ones that get listed up cheap and picking those up early and selling those later is pretty good. I'm going to be crafting jewels in addition to doing that as well. It's like trying to craft and keep an eye out for ones that potentially are going to be good for Blade Flurry too. So this is going to be a solid way to produce some extra cash. What extra things are you going to be doing to make some money this league, Ziz?
Well, that's another like problem with being a streamer is I don't really want to trade for my currency because sometimes my trades will get sniped. And it's not that fun for people to watch me like actively trading, so I try to avoid making currency through trading. And it's also, I don't know, you're probably faced by this as well, like because at some point you realize that a lot of people will follow your builds. You're like, oh dude, I could buy 5 of these. But I try to avoid doing stuff like that as well, so I'll mostly be farming for my currency. But trying to get early 5 links and stuff, if you see them going cheap, is definitely a good moneymaker.
That's usually the extent that I use this sort of technique for myself, is to pick up things that I need for either this current character or my next character. Because, yeah, I agree. It's just something I tend to prefer to avoid doing that sort of thing. Like, flipping is the way to make a bunch of cash, or, long-term market investment strategies. But I think it's worth explaining to people, even if it's not something we're personally going to do. So if you guys don't see us doing this sort of thing, that doesn't mean it's not worth it. You can tell that it's worth it by what people in chat are saying. Ziggy, shut up! Stop saying too much. You're saying too much.
Sharing is caring.
The outrage in chat tells you that it's not a bad idea to be doing things like this. This duel that I just got on the search here is a good example. Early League, you see this attack speed, crit multi, cold res, melee damage listed for like 1 or 2C. That's the example of the sort of thing you'll want to buy and get notified for. So just as a pertinent example there that happened to show up.
It's even got cold res.
Yeah. Oh, for what for? Or just you mean just as a bonus?
Oh, yeah, no, I just saw it as a bonus.
Right,
Actually,
yeah.
that's something worth mentioning. Like, if you are looking for a 3-stat duel, it is worth looking for something that, yeah, it's maybe not on your search. Like, for example, a resist or stats, like strength or int, but, like, getting a 4th stat that is, like, in any way beneficial. Like,
Yeah.
for example, for some builds, accuracy, and for a lot of my crit builds, I would only be looking for crit multi on amulets. But sure, if it has crit chance as a 4th stat, then that can be pretty great.
Yeah, agreed. So this one here would be like a great early purchase, just because that's just gonna sit like that's gonna be the one you chuck on your character early and never really have to replace. Like you'd never have to replace that really. Like eventually you might want to switch over to a life one or something like that, but that's a solid jewel. It's a solid jewel, so a solid investment. I'm gonna be leveling disciplines this league. I don't know about you, Sis, but I'm gonna be leveling disciplines. While I'm running these breach maps with their massive amount of XP, I'm gonna have a bunch of disciplines in my early league. I'm gonna have a bunch of disciplines in my offhand and then VAR them and sell them. Like that's I think going to be a good way to make an extra chunk of cash. Why? Are you being serious?
Yeah, I am being serious. Every time someone says that to me, I'm like, but why though? I would never go out of my way to buy a 20 or 21 discipline.
What? Are you for real?
I'm actually not joking here. Like I would always be leveling like active gems or enlightens or empowers.
I thought you were just trolling me, Ziz. No, they sell really well. Like, yeah, later, long term, you'll want to be leveling up Enlighten and Power, but they take like several times the amount of time it takes to level a discipline. And people want to get that early ES advantage of getting an extra like 3 levels or something like that. Like, presuming you're going to be like XPing pretty fast, so doing something that's more XP productive than the average person. So, for example, Breachstone maps, or whether you're like Vile Sparking, Dried Lake, or farming Atsiri or something like that, you're going to be getting a bunch of gem XP. And yeah, that sell for very good money early league, and with all the ES hype at the moment.
But like, especially for me, I'll generally be leveling gems for myself anyway. Like, I'll be leveling a bunch of discharge gems.
Yeah, like that's you can replace discipline with anything else that's going to be pretty popular, right? As far as like spells go. So you're going to be leveling for yourself, because I'm going to be playing an attack-based character that's not necessary for me, so I get to use all those slots to level for other people to sell. So yeah, like Discipline, Empower, popular spells like Flameblast and things like that. Summoner spells can work pretty well too.
Something worth mentioning is there's probably a lot of new players and which might be interested in leveling Enlightens or Empowers at least to level 2, because that doesn't take too long. And like Haku off fans give 30% more experience gain to Enlighten, Empowers, and Enhances, which you can buy off Haku at like level 4 or 5 or something. Yeah,
you'll want to invest in those if you're planning on continuing with that route of XP farming and going for the Empowers and that. Absolutely. I think you should all listen to Ziggy, and I'll stick to leveling normal gems.
I saw that. You're just trying to prove the chat we're not pre-recorded, aren't you?
Yes, I don't need a shoe on head, but that'll work.
Shoe as well. It's right over there.
And I don't have shoes handy. Usual. Whenever I get that request, I don't have shoes handy. I don't know how I can fulfill that. Did you have any other things you wanted to recommend to people as far as like producing wealth early league?
No, I want to keep the rest of the secrets. Like Carve. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I've said most of the things, I think. Depends like what league you're playing on as well. For example, on like hardcore or something like Itziri is insane currency. Especially if you like... I feel like something a lot of people fuck up with farming things like Itziri especially is they will undercut. Like generally when I'm farming Itziri, I will mirror the price of someone else. Whereas so many people undercut, and then you'll see prices drop from 20C. And especially with someone like, for example, one guy kept undercutting me, and then I was like, fuck it, we're down to 3 chaos already. It just ruins the market so quickly.
You're just aiding in the death of everyone's profits. Yeah, I think if you're playing off hours, especially, so if you're the type of person who plays weird hours, so you play in like the early hours of the morning or something like that, or when other people are at work or something, then you can actually even potentially like overcut people, I guess this might be the word for it, where you price above what the market is during peak times, because people don't, like, how do people trade, right? Like they don't generally wait like 24 hours or to get on at a different time to try and get a cheaper price. They look at the cheapest price at the time when they surge. So off hours, when you have less competition, you can potentially sell things for more. So selling things
I've
for a
been doing that.
premium. Yeah.
I never look at offline items when searching for something to buy.
Yeah, I mean, they're very like that's like a last resort for me too. Like, so it's generally something that people don't do. So yeah, you're only competing with whoever's online. That's worth remembering.
Yeah. Like, so many times people message me like, oh, there's one for 2C offline, and I'm like, go buy that one. Have fun. So, yeah, it doesn't matter what's offline, at least in my opinion. I'm sure lots of people disagree with that, but... And it's different if you're playing, like, a perm league, but especially hardcore temp league, where there's, like, not always that many players. Definitely online only.
I was thinking that we could probably take some questions for the end here. I don't think we did questions last episode, but I was thinking people probably have a lot of stuff to ask, and we might be able to share some insights. What do you think about the raider changes? So raider got frenzy charges on hit for bosses and rares, as well as a lot of the other stuff was just doubled. Like the chance for various things to proc was just doubled or increased dramatically. So pretty nice raider buffs. You were you kind of like on board with the idea of raiders just a worse Pathfinder before? How are you feeling
Raider
now?
was just... I didn't realize there was such a thing as Raider in the game until now. So yeah, now there's a new ascendancy called Raider. It's pretty exciting. It'll actually... Cyclone, maybe? I mean, I'm a little worried about doing Cyclone with Raider because obviously Slayer has so much AoE and that's all I want on Cyclone. But maybe the new weapon range things is good enough that I would try it with like crazy attack speed Raider. And I played Furry with the crazy attack speed Raider. Is going to be a lot of fun as well.
I could definitely confirm that Cyclone gets a big AoE buff from the changes. It's quite nice. I still don't know if it's like top tier competitive with some of the other skills we have available nowadays. It still feels a little archaic, but potentially a good option. I mean, that frenzy charge generation, 20% on hit, is enough to maintain max frenzy charges. Is probably the easiest out of any other possible setup in as far as bosses go. I mean, think about something like Blade Flurry, right? How many hits are you getting? You're going to be getting your frenzy charges easily.
So what you're saying is Dying Sun with my max AoE Cyclone build is going to be hilarious. It's basically...
You'll probably have screen-sized AoE, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, more than you already have that.
Yeah.
I mean, glorious.
Tips for coordinating builds in a party. Ziz, you do a bit of that, don't you? Bit of party leveling. Can you
repeat the question?
Tips for coordinating builds in a party. Is that something you guys like think about? In fact,
well, generally you want to avoid things like essence drain, for example, because or things that can be hampered by your friends killing things. So if you're relying on getting the last kill or the last hit, that can be bad. Essence drain, where like the contagion can be like fucked over or stopped by like other people killing things. Things that doesn't scale from auras at all, like for example, caustic arrow has always been something I've always avoided in parties. Generally, just that, try to get something that has synergy.
Just like any sort of synergy over like no synergy, like some setups.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Also, I actually saw a question in chat real quick, which is something I'm also curious about. After you finish a breach, can you like take your time and loot?
Yeah, so the design of it is such that you're going to be skipping the loot while you're killing things, which I did bring up, and I was like, D3 addressed this pretty well. I did suggest it, but I didn't think they were going for it. But yeah, a lot of loot's going to be dropping while you're clearing the map. You're just going to ignore it and go kill the boss. The loot drops from the boss, and then the breach just remains open, and you can go back and loot. And in fact, the breach remains open as long as you make it to the boss. So even if you skipped mobs, you can go back and kill them. So you have as much time as you want, but it does mean you kind of need to run through the map twice to like pick up your loot. It's not ideal. I'll be honest. It's It's not the ideal design. It would be better if they had some system where like all of the loot was just in the end room with you, but I guess it's probably not currently available in the game engine, and would be something pretty major that they would need to do to be able to do that. But yes, so yeah, you can take your time. It's which is good, I guess, a good concession. But yeah, backtracking, sad face. So high move speed, it's gonna be nice. Just quality of life for running around between these things. What do you mean skipping? Skipping
just
the loot?
like, yeah.
Skip the loot? Potentially. I mean, what you could do, an alternative, is if you are wanting to skip most loot and just like say pick up breach rings and uniques, then you could just set up your loot filters such that breach rings are massive and just like click them as you're going.
Yeah.
And then just like filter out everything else. Yeah, currency and breach rings and just pick up the juicy stuff as you go. You could do that. If your build is fast enough, then you could probably do it. So that's
probably do that. I hope. I gotta fix my filter. I still haven't like looked at it. Ugh.
Yeah, I gotta get on mine too as well. I'll get mine done, by the way, guys, for everyone who's been asking. Old School asks, what do you guys think about totems being terrible for breaches and forcing GG to boost the cast speed a little for that purpose? Do you think players will skip early game all these breaches till Merciless as example for slow Flameblast totems for breaches? I like any good totem build's not actually gonna have problems, like Pizza Sticks and Warchief totems and things like that. I think they're gonna clear just fine.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Skype was lagging out. I saw you freeze for a second there. Did you catch the question?
Something about totem builds and cast speed and not being able to compete. Yeah.
Are you concerned about totems for breaches? Yeah.
I mean, totems should be fine. They should have pretty high clear speed.
Yeah, the days of totems
more
being
worried
like
about
slow
melee
clear speed builds are kind of behind us. Yeah, melee is worse off.
More worried about Viper Strike, for example, things like that. I just don't see them having much of a point in breach. Whereas, like in the other ones, like I was watching you play Viper Strike in a shrine, and I've never actually hoped someone would die so much. I was like, please die, it would be glorious. But you could do it, and you did, and it was actually very fun to watch. But I'm a little worried about things like that with the breach meta.
It's a shame that the same expansion that melee, like melee name locking builds get a significant quality of life buff is the same league where you might not necessarily want to play them because they don't make much sense in the breach content. But yeah, I did test on an assassin Viper Strike character, and I geared it very well, so it was one-shotting packs in the breach maps, but it still was having a tough time keeping up with the timer. Like, it was still a struggle, because you still do have to get relatively close to things, especially with a dagger, which has, on the shorter end of the weapon range.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about players who do, like, because I'm trying not to think of just me and players like me who I don't like taking my time, but there are players who do, and a lot of people do like going at a slower pace and or have to go at a slower pace because of like real life limitations. So I feel like that's a little weird, but it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out.
Yeah. Opinions on the new SRS. This was a pay to win question from Rook986. This is a pay to win stream. Deal with it. Presumably, what I heard was that they were trying to do the same thing with SRS that they basically did with Blade Vortex, reduce the stacks from 50 to 20, but try and keep the damage to be somewhat equivalent. This is a buff. What do you reckon, Ziz? I reckon it's gonna be stronger.
It seems I'm not very familiar with SRS. When I first looked at it, I was like, oh, that looks like a nerf. That doesn't look very good. Looks like less clear speed at least. But yeah, obviously you can drop the spell echo gem, so yeah, you will get a nice boost.
Yeah, you don't have to scale as much cast speed and potentially duration. The thing about clear speed, if you're playing pure SRS builds will probably get nerfed in clear speed. So I saw last league some people playing pure SRS, but I think where it's at is using specters for clear speed anyway, for your AoE clear, like fireball specters, which just destroy on clear speed, and then your SRS was more for single target. And I think it's that style of setup is only going to be stronger.
Yeah, for sure.
Easier to build, easier to gear, and all that sort of stuff. So quite juicy, I think. Quite juicy. Any other questions you picked out? There's so many questions. It's actually quite difficult to pick out questions. Probably should have thought about the fact that we probably got.
I've not been tagged in them as well, so it's harder for me.
say the name of the trading video again. I missed it. Runs for the Hills. General So's Chicken, which I struggle to pronounce correctly, is
RMT.
he's got a trading video that you could check out. That's got some tips on currency production and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I got a question from him in my interview video that I'm going to put out in a couple of days as well.
Nice.
What do you think about Explosive Arrow Elementals for clearing breaches? Yeah, I actually think Explosive Arrow is going to be really good for this. It's the style of build that works really well. Some of the breaches, so the breaches have set maps and set layout, not set layouts exactly, but like set tile sets. And some of them are kind of indoorsy with a lot of walls and things. And Explosive Arrow works so well in those maps, so it's gonna be pretty nice. Yeah, they'll destroy the packs. They might be a little tougher on the bosses. Explosive Arrow is the arenas are kind of small, so you might be able to get some like overlapping action, but for Explosive Arrow to have really good single target, you kind of need like another bow swap, which is a bit difficult to do early league. So as a league starter, I don't know, because the bosses are actually going to be a bit difficult, but you'll clear them fine. So
yeah, Explosive Arrow is always like, it's actually one of the few bow builds I actually like as well.
Yeah. Any love for Scion coming up? Not in this patch.
Poor Scion. Oh.
Nothing in 2.5. Chris has got a more thorough answer on Scion in the video I'm going to put out on. I'm going to put that video out on Monday, if you guys are wondering.
I think he said something about that on Reddit.
Yeah, I think he mentioned the video, so people have been pestering me for it. It's coming out on Monday. Give me a break. I want to play the game. Do the monsters that drop extra loot based on the damage you do to them in the breach just constantly run away, or do they stop and fight a bit? Tell me, baby, because I need to know. I actually didn't see any. I didn't get to play as much as people think. I was mostly like trying to record content and stuff, so I didn't get to see any of the breach lords spawn inside of the regular breaches. I only saw some of the lieutenants and stuff, so they're somewhat rare. I presume they fight you, right? Like, it would be a bit weird if they were running away like a goblin or something. Like
yeah, they said they like rebalanced the mob damage and stuff on like white and blue mobs.
Okay, interesting.
So hopefully we'll actually have like white and blue mobs actually doing damage and not just when they die.
Yeah, that'd be exciting. We get this clear speed breach league, and then everything actually gets really dangerous. That'd be pretty fun. I didn't take note of anything like that while I was there though. Do you think that Blade Flurry's nerf was appropriate or enough, Sis, or do you think it should have been taken further? You were kind of on board with not nerfing it at all, weren't you?
I was fine with not nerfing it because I feel like attack-based skills. It's time for attack-based skills to shine. We have it's been like spell meta all the way, so yeah, give us some attack love. It's hard enough that melee doesn't actually get any love. We might as well. Okay, I'm not gonna call Blade Flurry melee. It's not really melee, is it? When it off screens with the Dying Sun. But yeah, definitely all for attack-based builds being powerful for a league at least.
I think that the nerf that it got will not make too much difference to how strong it is. Sure. So if you think it's overpowered, then I would say that maybe it wasn't enough of a nerf. It seemed like the release damage was what they needed to address, maybe. But like the releasing 6 stacks, the massive spike.
Yeah.
Damage. There was a great graph on Reddit actually that showed the damage.
The 6 stack is pretty crazy.
Of all different melee skills, and they were like, some of them had like a little bit of ramp, and most of them were like level. And then Blade Flurry with the release was like the graph was just like I had to scroll to see the damage spike. It was that was pretty good.
I think what really disappointed me was that they're after they buffed Glacial Hammer too much last time. So it wasn't nerfed this time, so I think that is a bit overtuned now.
Yeah, we really needed Glacial Hammer to be adjusted. I mean, now with the new melee targeting, Glacial Hammer was just going to dominate the meta over Blade Flurry.
Is there anything in the patch notes you were surprised that was there or wasn't there?
I was surprised that they didn't just add a little bit of extra life addressing love, especially for like the bottom right hand side of the tree and that sort of thing. I was kind of expecting some of that, but no, otherwise I think most of it I expected. Like you said, you expected a Vinctor's nerf. I expected more that they would focus on Pathfinder and Blade Vortex's mechanics, which is what they ended up doing. So no, I think it was pretty much what I expected actually.
What about volatiles?
Nothing too surprising.
Volatiles.
Oh, I've lost hope that they're gonna save me from volatiles and detonate dead. I think ZiggyD just likes laughing at me when I die to them.
Make volatiles great again.
Make them great again. What? Great and terrible.
Yeah, make them an enjoyable game mechanic like
Right.
bears. Bears are fantastic.
Yes, if they were like bearers where it charged up, so good, so good.
Yeah, because like what I love about bears, right, is say I don't like my support, I can like call it out a little bit too late, and boom, my support is dead, and I'm solo again. Can't really do that with volatiles. I have to like time it with killing next to them and stuff.
Yeah, too tricky, man. You can't like cover it with a black hole vortex so they can't see it. Well, I mean, you can cover anything with that.
It's so like it's so hard to use. It's so shiny.
Actually, one thing that did surprise me was the Rumi's nerf in the context of not a Victor's nerf. I thought if they were gonna like nerf all the fly stuff, that they wouldn't really touch any flies in particular. Like Rumi's is strong, but I don't see why it got nerfed over Victor's. Like,
No, unless some of the new uniques they've added have some crazy block stuff.
Can't remember any block uniques. There might be.
Did you see all of them?
I think I saw all of them. Yeah.
I'm jealous as hell. There's no way I would not forget that.
I didn't like take pictures of them. I didn't take pictures of them or like take particular note because I didn't want to spoil myself too much. But I'm very good at forgetting spoilers, so I'm okay to like look at stuff on there because I just forget it afterwards unless I specifically note it down. I think there might have been something with block, maybe a shield or something, though from memory. I think there might have been something there, so I'm not saying anything more about that though. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't know how many uniques I was supposed to spoil. I think ZiggyD likes people finding some.
Yeah, Chris is hiring a hitman right now.
Can we craft breach rings with essences? No, we can't. I'm just moved on. Next question.
Getting scared. I get it.
Yeah, just like move along. No, you can't craft breach rings at all. They drop identified and rare. When I was there, Magic Find did not affect them at all. But I believe they were in the process of changing it so that quantity would affect them. So I don't know the final end result on that. That'll probably need ZiggyD clarification. But I think it's looking like quantity should end up affecting their drop rate. I was seeing quite a few of them, like 2 to 4 a breach stone map. So a bit of quantity could aid in finding a decent one. They seem like they're going to be pretty strong. Do you think the breach rings will be like worth farming for and equipping and such?
The damage ones are pretty like okay. So for example, say you get a resist one, right? The like my resistances are doubled. Okay, actually, it is sort of useful in the case of like the lightning amulet we were discussing. But in anything else like resist and stuff, it's like so pointless because you can't rely on that.
Yeah, exactly.
At least not in my opinion. So, but no, for damage and stuff like 64 wed on a ring, yeah, that's fantastic. Or life, energy shield and stuff like that.
Yeah, I am interested in seeing like, well, no, because high fizz rolls have to compete with like the massive fizz implicit, so it is mostly stuff like life and things like fire damage and stuff, I guess.
Yeah. So they'll be interesting for stuff like that, but like it's a little weird with things like resist or like most of the suffixes.
Yeah, no, you can't get doubled steel rings, which is someone mentioned in chat because you lose the implicit in order to get the breach ring. Yeah. Breach ring is itself a specific ring. I did want to mention and remind people that there is a Val portal skill, which opens a breach on your location. None of the mobs give XP or loot or anything like that. It's just specifically to give you extra mobs to do things like Herald of Ash Prolith or get fast charges, or to activate your breach rings while you're in the breach. So you can activate that on a boss. So if you want to like charge up your Val breach while running Atsiri and then open it up to, pump up your breach rings and all that. Get some Herald of Ash Prolith.
I saw Karvarusku said something very very important in chat with the for example, say you have 15 old attributes on one of your breach rings.
Yep.
And then suddenly you can level up one of your gems, or it levels up while you're in the breach and you don't realize. Then you're like, oh fuck, now I've discarded back down again. So stuff like that can be super annoying.
Probably a good idea to not level your gems while in a breach if you're wearing breach rings, just as a general practice. Yeah, that might get a few people out. That'd be pretty funny. If there's a death highlight of someone dying to that, perfect. This league is golden. I hope that happens.
I hope it's ripping. I hope we can see some cool Merrick videos.
Do you have any final thoughts before we sign out here, Ziz? Where can people catch you, and what will you be working on?
You can catch me at twitch.tv/Zizaran. Finally name change.
Yay!
And yeah, I've been putting out a lot of like beginner YouTube content lately. The last 3 days, hoping to help some of you guys who are like new to the game, or there's some useful stuff and tips for advanced players as well. And then yeah, I'm gonna be pushing 100.
Nice, man. Good luck with it. I like your strategy this time of taking a little chill early on, just trying to make a bunch of currency first, and then doing the big push. I'll be following your progress eagerly.
If I can do it, I hope.
Everyone's asking me about the melee videos, so I'll tell you guys here. I'm working on it literally when we stop this. I'm going to stop this now, and I'm going to go work on the melee video. Maybe I'll have like a piece of food first, but I'll get to work on it, so don't you guys worry. And I'll be seeing you guys streaming lots for Breach. I've been, my stream's been all over the place with lots of traveling and stuff lately, and going to New Zealand and such. Which is awesome and all, but I'm very eager to settle into a streaming schedule, so I'll be seeing you guys on hopefully a regular and consistent schedule with lots of Ziggy streams for the new league. I'm very much looking forward to it. I think this league's going to be very fun. I'm looking forward to making a mirror, apparently.
And thank you so much for having me on the Exiled. It was a pleasure coming back. Always enjoyable.
Thanks for helping me out, Ziz, and for helping everyone out. It's we had a lot of demands. A lot of people were keen to see some more of this action, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it. That is going to be it for now. I am ZiggyD, and thank you guys very much for watching.